Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our international guest lecture. Now we will begin our second session. But before we are going to continue our second session, I would like to invite again our moderator, Mrs. Anissa Maulida Ningtyas Eskom NH. And please welcome Mrs. Anissa.
Okay, thank you very much. Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. I hope you have a good lunch and have a good break and ready to continue for our second sessions today. And thank you for the presenter for giving me the second chance, the opportunity to continue our international guest lecture today. So maybe I will, okay. So for all the participants, maybe you can fill in the quick survey from Mr. Surahyo Sumarsono. Okay, before we begin the second lectures, I would like to briefly introduce again for our second speaker, and he is Mr. Surahyo Sumarsono, Bachelor of Engineering and Master of Engineering of Science. Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Surahyo.
Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, and he is currently managing information technology and management consulting company Kertiasa Niwanda Kawasita and serving as senior consultant. I would like to read Mr. Surahyo curriculum vitae. Mr. Surahyo achieved bachelor degree in electrical and electronics engineering in Muroran Institute of Technology, Hokkaido, Japan. He continued his master degree in development technology from the University of Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. And he is currently taking the doctoral degree in health informatics and telemedicine and mobile health in University of Groningen in Netherlands. And Mr. Surahyo actively involved in various related e-health systems, including telemedicine and mobile health. One of the ongoing projects that Mr. Surahyo taking part is in telemedicine expert for assessment telemedicine service in pandemic situations in Indonesia from United Nations Development Program. And he also actively participating in Asia eHealth Information Network, one of the biggest eHealth communities in Asia. And aside those activities, Mr. Surahyo is a lecturer and researcher in Universitas Gadjah Mada. He teaches various subjects from health information system to IT management, network, and security. And he also teaches in Universitas Airlangga, Universitas Islam Indonesia, and Universitas Muhammadiyah. Okay, for today's lecture, Mr. Surahyo will present us about the telemedicine implementation in Indonesia, challenges and the opportunities. Okay, without any further ado, I would like to welcome our second lecturer, our second speaker, Mr. Surahyo. Please take your times. Yeah, we have 2 hours for this session.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much for inviting me to join this open lecture, international open lecture. It's very honored for me to get the opportunity to share my experience to all of you. And I joined this morning session. I learned a lot also from the previous speaker about how the telemedicine implementation in Taiwan is usually using IoT, big data, AI, and many other things. Here in my lecture, I would like to share my experience. Something is more I think simple, is more adaptable to kind of situation in Indonesia, because as you see in our discussion in the previous lecture, we have so many challenges, we have so many limitations, we have so many obstacles if we want to, let's say, apply or implement kind of high technology in our country. So that's why maybe in this occasion, I just like to share what I did in the past and what I learned and what is the future should be done, especially also including or inviting all of you. One, I think mostly a student doing some health informatics things, or even some of you also from the IT background. I don't know. I will check if the the survey later on after I finish it, and let's see what's going on. But and that survey also in the last question I asked you to contribute. Yeah, either you are a student, you are a lecturer, you are a practitioner, and so on. So let's do together. Let's support the telemedicine or any health informatics solution in Indonesia to help to improve our health services, especially during the pandemic. So then, first of all, I'd like to share my presentation here. So give me some time to check it. Okay. So everyone, could you see my presentation clearly here? Is it okay?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, okay. And my voice is okay. Eh? It's clear enough, yeah?
Yeah.
If it's not clear enough, please tell me, because sometimes we got a problem with our network infrastructure. So that's why, yeah, we have so many challenges here. Okay, then. So let's start our first lecture today. And it's going to be 2 hours, and this is also a hard and difficult time because you already had your lunch, and sometimes you get sleepy, feel sleepy. So maybe prepare your, I don't know, maybe in Jogja now it's very, very hot. I don't know if it's about the weather or about the Merapi, because Merapi volcano is becoming active again.
Oh, okay.
So this now I prepare my very cold drink here. So sometimes I drink it, sorry about that.
Yeah.
So but you prepare your snacks, your coffee, anything, yeah, because now it's virtual class, then you are free actually. It's not like in the classroom that you have to sit down properly and something like that. So, okay then, so my title is about telemedicine implementation in Indonesia, challenge and opportunity. So we will see there are a lot of challenging things that we have to face it. We have to understand, we have to try to find the solution and something like that. So then, yeah, it's very interesting. So many uniqueness in our country that we cannot be applied, like in previous lecture, maybe speaker now in university in Taiwan, in Taipei Medical University, but I think it's from India, and India also is much, much bigger than our country. And India also has bigger, various problem like us as well, not only from geographical thing, from demographic, from the citizen, and many other things. Okay, wait a moment, please. I just check the chat here. What's happening in chat? No? Is it okay? Yeah. Okay. Just tell me when something I want to ask something. Okay. So let's continue. So here in the first slide, I would like to show you. This is old slide or picture. It is made in 2015, 5 years ago, about the framework of e-health in Indonesia. So basically, in our government, Ministry of Health, also including Ministry of the Communication Information, Kominfo, and including also BPJS, BPOM, and many others, we already have what we call, let's say, like what we call framework, something that we can refer to conduct our health informatic activities. Let's start from like leadership and governance. We have Nawacita, RPJMN. This is a long-term strategic plan from the country, right? The Tiknas, Kami Index, PEGI, and many other things. Yeah? Like recently you are familiar with Smart City and many other things, right? So usually also we will include the telemedicine as part of the Smart Health. Smart Health also part of the Smart City as well. Smart City is, I think, the new form of after we finish our e-government project. Right? And we also have what we call strategy and investment here. We have the National e-health strategy document released in 2015. Now just updated, I think. This also we have HIS roadmap and many other things. We have also a group of the service and application, including the telemedicine. Ministry of Health already conducted some pilot project for teleradiology, telecardiology, and so on. I will tell you later on. Yeah. And we also like to apply like some participant asked for the previous speaker about the standard and interoperability. Yeah? This is also quite difficult to implement, not only in a developing country, but also in developed country, like maybe, I don't know, in Taiwan, I don't know, it's already 100% all the interoperable or not, I'm not sure. Let's say about in Malaysia and Thailand and so on, they are still also making a good progress, yeah, compared to our country, yeah, unfortunately. Infrastructure, this is also a big homework as well for the government. But I think in last 3 or 4 years, they built a lot of good things like the backbone, national backbone using fiber optic, under the sea and so on. I will show you later on. And we have also some regulation from the government, and especially also in during the pandemic, we have 2 what we call regulation, but it's like relaxation of regulation. I will explain later on. And as we are workforce. We are people who are interested in learning and doing and implementing the health informatics area. Either you come from the background of IT like me, you come background like from the medical, like our previous speaker, all of you as well, and some of you also from different background. It doesn't matter, but at least we have to know that there are many boxes that they are needed or required to support the development, the improvement of our health services in Indonesia. So of course, including all the university, research facility, and many other things. So I just refresh what is telemedicine actually is. It comes from 2 words, tele and medicine. Tele meaning that is something with spirited medicine, and medicine is like giving health services. In some textbook, we also call it telehealth. It's a bigger one. And also in the top, we have e-health. It's also the umbrella of everything there. So it's delivery health services, delivery healthcare services, where patient and provider are separated by distance. Either distance is only just, let's say, few meters or few kilometers or 1,000 kilometers, it doesn't matter. Meaning that we will use something, modality. I don't know, either this information technology. Here, if we refer to the ITU, this is also the International Organization for Telecommunication. ICT mean refer to the 2016. It also includes like a radio, like my personal experience when I went to the West Papua, like in 2019, we visited one of the puskesmas or primary healthcare. They told us that some puskesmas which are in top of the mountain, they use the 2-meter radio because it's the only infrastructure that they can use to communicate with the doctor. So there may be some like nurses and something on. They just use the 2-meter radio to make communication, to transfer the data information about how they conduct their health services. So we also can call it telemedicine. Just like now, we are facing what we call the e-learning. Everyone has to use the, like now, Zoom or maybe Google Meeting, Microsoft Team, Cisco Webex, whatever like that, to conduct the education, right? For you who lives in a big city, it's no problem, but you're living in like in the top of the mountain, something that's very, very far away, then you got a problem because you got the infrastructure problem. Maybe you don't have a very good smartphone. That is also very, very important right now to deliver the what we call information through the internet. But some cases they also use the simplest technology like SMS. SMS is also we can use for the telemedicine, to reporting, to surveillance. Using SMS also is very, very good as well, right? So, and this is what, and then why? So why are we doing it? This is the answer for the problem happening in Indonesia. Number one is about the distance, about the geographical challenge, geographical limitation. As you know, I feel very lucky that I was involved in Ministry of Health since 2015, helping from the telemedicine Indonesia. And I got a lot of opportunity to visit for everywhere in Indonesia, from Sabang and the most western area in Jogja until the Merauke in Papua. Also, I was able to visit Pulau Wakai in Sulawesi Tengah, visit the top mountain of the Gunung Kerinci in Jambi, and so many. But as you know, it's so huge. The country is so huge, and so many difficulties. Like when we do a transportation, we have to take like I don't know, 4-wheel drive car, or sometimes we have to walk, we have to ride a boat, and so on. I will tell you, I got experience riding boat in Mahakam Ulu in Kalimantan Timur for like 8 hours on the river. It's very, very far. This is why telemedicine is needed, because we have so many challenges in distance. Very big country. And as you know that we have 70,000 islands. Sometimes people from outside Indonesia, they will not believe. Really, you have 70,000? How can you count it? So sometimes also I feel doubt about the number of our island, because it's so many. I don't know how they calculate. Yeah, it's 17,000. I can't imagine. Yeah, 5 or 10 or 20 or 100 is okay, but 17,000 is incredible. Workforce, yeah, as you see, it's a lot of gap. You are lucky. You got very good background in education. You got chance to visit to access this e-learning process now using Zoom. You got the 4G maybe connection and so on. You are lucky. But once you go somewhere there, they don't go to school. Even they maybe cannot write and so on. So this is quite difficult for us to improve the health services because of the gap of the education sometimes. So, and time, sometimes it's sort of very it's critical to make a quick decision for the medical doctor in somewhere in island X or Y, somewhere there. So what they do is they have to ask the medical specialist in RSUD and in district hospital. What should I do, doctor, to help my patient here? If I have to bring her or him using like say car or maybe boat, it takes like 1 day, and I don't know, sometimes bad thing happen during the transportation sometimes. So meaning that we like to improve our health system, the quality, the efficiency, equity, and many other things. This is our homework, so then I need your help. I invite all of you to support all this activity, not only limited to telemedicine, but only kind of the health informatics, using the ICT to help the health services, because two basic needs, they are really important right now. This education and health. So who actually then WHO divide into two different kind of telemedicine. One is from provider to client directly, just like we use teleconsultation, as you know, or some of the medical doctors, many of the medical doctors already use like WhatsApp or maybe SMS, a phone call to help the patient at home to get something, to drink medicine and many other things. So this is from the provider to the client. But also we have among providers, among the hospital, puskesmas or primary healthcare to the hospital in kabupaten district, and goes to the province hospital and goes to the national hospital and so on. This is, we call it a provider to provider telemedicine. It also, now in Indonesia, we are lucky because already have the regulation, Peraturan Menteri, Ministry Decree number 20, year 2019, support this provider to provider telemedicine. But from the client to provider, we will discuss later on, because we still have somewhat regulation, but not real regulation, because it's only circular letter, surat edaran. If you ask your friend who studied law, surat edaran is very weak, it's not a regulation. Also, we have per council, peraturan from medical council. This is also, I think, is much stronger than surat edaran from the Ministry of Health. And also, it's telling that in WHO, telling that again in client to provider, or let's say for medical doctor. Sorry, could you please turn off your microphone? There is someone who is still using a microphone. Okay, thank you. WHO recommend that the client to provider is only to complement, not replacing. Sometimes I'm IT guy. If you ask me, it's really necessary to use AI in our health services, I will answer yes or no. Because why? Because still, for me, luckily my wife is medical specialist from skin. I got daughter to a university student. One is also medical student. My parents also the medical doctor. So every day I have so many discussion about the medical services. So then I agree that really if you serving your patient, actually is better human to human. But again, if we are need help like for the very big data to let's say calculate and so on, yes, there's a machine behind that. But still again, health is about, for me, human, people to people. But it's my personal opinion. Okay then. So provider to provider, I will discuss later on. But anyway, WHO telling us this only complement, not replacing, yeah, face-to-face delivery, because still so many things that only can be found by looking directly, yeah, based on my 26 years of my marriage with my medical doctor specialist. Also, I got my medical student at home, so my daughter and also my parents. So still, I mean, different, yeah. When you watch it, you touch it, it's something different. But I don't know, maybe in someday, like in the movie, like so you see iRobot, yeah, Will Smith or many other things. System who are very, very, very smart will replace. It is interesting because if you read my CV, I did my first degree in Bachelor of Engineering doing the neural network, and my second degree in master also doing a fuzzy logic. So actually, at that time, I was AI guy. At that time, we don't use AI. Yeah? We use this kind of whatever expert system. But nowadays, I feel that people is still important. I don't know. Yes, and again, if we want to adapt the telemedicine, there are many levels actually. Right now, maybe in Indonesia, we only have like 0 to 1 or sometimes 3 to 2 to number 2 to number 3. So actually, in Indonesia, it's still in stage 1 or let's say 0 to 1. Yeah, there is emerging technology program like from Ministry of Health, from some hospital and many other things and so on. And they started using video conference, yeah, using WhatsApp video call, using Line, using Skype, and so on. This is also interesting during the pandemic in US. Tomorrow you will have speaker from US, right? Pak Andi Sabtono, yeah, I know him very well. And he will tell you that during the pandemic, there is a strict regulation, right, in US, using the medical device, telemedicine, and so on, because you know HIPAA, yeah? And during the pandemic, HIPAA gave relaxation of the regulation. So medical doctor can use Skype or maybe video call to conduct their diagnosis, analysis, and so on because of the pandemic. But actually, if they refer to the regulation, it's not allowed yet because so many things to be comply, something like that. I will. And then level 2, after using the video, so meaning the video conference is very low level of the telemedicine. Yeah. So then if people say that I use webinar to do this, yes, it's very low. It's only just replacing our face-to-face. But the next is also we need to transfer or to exchange the information of our patient. Yeah. Whether it's like resume, it's not the electronic medical record because again, depends on the regulation. We cannot exchange easily, yeah, because electronic medical record are only inside in your institution. Yeah, I mean you are from Prakasi and you're learning about rekam medis, right? And once we want to be transferred to other one, we have electronic health record and so on, and many other things. Right? So finally, we have personal health record, right? And level 3, we have simple exam camera and so on, viewing something, yeah, using some medical device. And like in US, they have to be approved from FDA and so on to conduct some examination. Yeah, I think in Taiwan also is very, very advanced. Yeah, there because based again to my wife experience, sometimes he got a picture from patient or from another doctor just using camera on the mobile phone. It's very low resolution, and so he said that I cannot decide because it's too difficult for me to only looking the. We need a higher resolution. You need to take a better picture because red and on your skin is it means anything. This is so many things can happen. It cause your rash on your head, for example, sometimes. So we again in number 3, we need some specialized technology to help us to conduct like the physical diagnostic and so on, so on. Then finally we goes to 4, 5, 6, 7, and finally we can just integrate interoperable itself from all hospital information directly transfer to the Dinas Kesehatan, the health district, to the Puskesmas, primary healthcare, to the national hospital and BPJS, and so all are integrated. I hope, I don't know, maybe another 5 or 10 years, we don't know, but we need to help them. Yeah, okay. Background here, yeah, just I already told you in the beginning, we see the map here. So as you know, that this is old data actually, but the number, it doesn't change much. Yeah, as you see, mostly all the health services are condensed in Western area. You're lucky if you live in Java or in Sumatra, yeah. But if you live like in Southern Tenggara Timur, in Sulawesi, in Papua, Papua Barat, then you see like the number is very low. Like I don't know now, maybe now it's better, like maybe 5-6%. I don't know. But as you see, the hospital discipline is uneven. But I have a sad story as well when I'm accompanying Ministry of Health, traveling everywhere. Yeah, I think I have been all this island here. Sometime, like in the last 3 or 5 years, the government develop or build small hospital or maybe primary healthcare. The building is very good. It's even better than in Java, the building, yeah. But no one there. There is no medical doctor. There is no nurse and so on. So I don't know. In Indonesia we say mangkrak. I feel very sad. I take a lot of picture, watching in the glass window, and I see inside the hospital there are so many medical devices, equipment just there, wrapped in the plastic, is not used at all because no doctor at all. But the building is very nice, very good. So then this is also our homework, yeah, to have them. But now it's pandemic, yeah. But if you not, you can go there using Indonesia Health, whatever program there. You can go everywhere. It's very big experience. It's very nice experience. You every day you can swim on the beautiful sea. You can climb to the very beautiful mountain. And not only the health facility is also about the medical specialists. As you see, the distribution is also uneven. Most of them are in the western area of Indonesia. So then this is also very important for you to have, yeah, now you are studying in Rekamedis, or maybe you are studying in keperawatan, in nursing, or in gizi and medical doctor and so on. Please, once you graduate, please go there and help them, because we see uneven distribution about the the nakes, tenaga kesehatan, the medical specialist person to help them improving the health service there in the other, yeah. So as you see in telemedicine, usually I will not chat by one. Every person have different style. So just type it, and maybe the moderator will summarize it, and I will check it in my last time in the lecture, right? So because I just want to make my flow is going smoothly, right?
Yeah.
So I will continue it. And telemedicine service in Indonesia, there are, again, we can divide into different groups, different category. One is provider to provider. From the perspective of government, we have at least 2 or more. We have Temenin, Telemedicine Indonesia. This is logo there. We have integrated referral system rujukan terintegrasi. And from the client to provider, again, from the Ministry of Health, we have Sehatpedia, just like if you are familiar with Click Doctor, Halodoc, and so on. This mobile application. Actually, Temenin also has a mobile application, but now is currently is postponed because we need to upgrade to improve the performance. Then also during the pandemic, a lot of hospital, like, because I live in Jogja, also the organizer also in Jogja, as we belong to UGM. We have Sarjito Hospital. Right? In Sarjito Hospital, they have very good hospital information system, but during the pandemic, patient cannot visit to the hospital physically. So what they do, they build extension from the hospital information to be used as a patient at home. So they just build what we call TEKON. TEKON is in bahasa Jawa meaning asking, yeah, bertanya, TEKON, telemedicine consultation. This is and also it happened in RSCM in Jakarta and many other hospital supporting or providing the teleconsultation basically, yeah. Either it's only chat, phone call, video call, and many other. But don't forget also the gatekeeper is primary health care. So a lot of people who's just talking telemedicine about the hospital, about the mobile application, but they forget about the primary health care. Primary health care is in Indonesia, the ujung tombak is the front line to serve the patient, right, the citizen in Indonesia. So that I conduct a seminar, a lot of medical doctors who are working in primary healthcare ask me, what about if I use WhatsApp or maybe SMS to solve our client or patient who lives at home, so he or she cannot come to our puskesmas. Is it also called telemedicine? Yes, but we are also concerned about the, let's say, privacy, security, and so on, because if you use SMS, it's not encrypted, and so on. So then, still, again, we have to support, we have to help health services in primary healthcare in puskesmas, because now, yeah, everyone like in a referral system, like in rujukan, you have firstly to come to the primary healthcare, and then you go to the district hospital and so on. So then we need to empower, we need to strengthen the system in the puskesmas. Some of them already have SIMPUS, system puskesmas information system. So then just make an extension to help them to do the teleconsultation to the patient. And of course, you live in a big city like in Yogyakarta, Surabaya, Jakarta, or many other things. You're familiar with a lot of the private provider, like from this Atensi group, Halodoc, Doctor, and so on, Health Tech ID, and many other things. So as you see here, this is the screen that I'm also involved in the Telemedicine Indonesia project here, and currently we are developing Telemedicine version 2. Yeah, this is the look here, the user interface of Telemedicine Indonesia. We see we have teleradiology, we have tele-ECG, USC, and so on. Maybe later on I will explain why this service is not other, right? Why not teledermatology, ophthalmology, and so on, something like that. Yeah, there's also a story behind that. But anyway, this is the dashboard, so we can serve the patient who comes to our primary healthcare, and then let's say me as a medical doctor, I can make a consultation to the medical specialist in district hospital, helping me to diagnose something, to decide something, whether a patient will be solved here in our puskesmas or primary care, or I have to send them to the district hospital. Then we will use system rujukan. Once the patient physically be sent to the next hospital, then we use another system to handle it. It's called system rujukan terintegrasi or SISRUTO. And inside that, there's also a small function about telemedicine. This is also Sehatpedia that I told you is a mobile application to help people make some consultation to the medical doctor around your area, asking something, yeah, or maybe just checking about the COVID-19 news update and so on, many other things. Yeah. This is a take-on from the Sarjito Hospital. This is just like extension for hospital information. So meaning that who can use the take-on? Actually, the patient who already have their medical record inside the hospital information system. So from the new patient, it depends. In emergency, then they will do it. But now, yeah, they have to check it. This is very important because, again, remember about the privacy, security, also about the informed consent and so on. Because once you have already medical record in the hospital information, then you already passed that stage, right? Rather than if just asking with online that you are not sure whether there's a real patient or the real doctor and so on. So in take-on here or in many other function facilities like in Jaya, this is one also hospital in Yogyakarta, or maybe in Pantirapi and so on, they also use this for existing patients because they already have the medical record. But again, it's depend on the hospital policy. Yeah? I explained before, this is for the primary healthcare from the puskesmas. Now I think it's very, very important. We have to help them. We have to support them to use more and more the ICT tools to increase their health services, something like that. And then, yeah, as you see, some of them already use a very good SIMPUS or Sistem Informasi Puskesmas, but sorry, some of them is very, very traditional, yeah, just using the analog system and so on. So then we need to, but at least if the doctor use the mobile phone, yeah, they can communicate directly to the patient, sending something and so on and so on. Something. Okay, yeah. This is some of the private provider, the telemedicine private provider. There are many actually, like a Halodoc, ClickDoctor, GoodDoctor, Docuity, Halodoc, and Jejasum you name it, yeah. And also there are another group like Health Tech ID and so on. So according to their data, I haven't got the real data, but they claim that I think patient increased like from 300 until 600%. Yeah? So this huge demand on using the telemedicine because people are afraid to go outside. But I don't know, but recently in the last few months, people who live in Indonesia, they don't care anymore. And then you go outside, you go to the mall, you go to the restaurant, and so on, so on. So then maybe, I don't know, the use of the telemedicine is maybe decreasing. I'm not sure. Yeah? So this is the history of the telemedicine in Indonesia, or temenin. It started actually officially in 2012. Ministry of Health conducted their pilot project for tele-ECG and radiology. But at the time they involved the private sector, yeah, the private company to help them. And somehow there was, I don't know, it's not appropriate decision because that device need fixed and consistent 3G connection. So then somehow the project didn't work properly. Yeah, a lot of the hospital couldn't use because of the bad infrastructure and so on. Also about teleradiology, the time most of them are just using scanner, just very cheap scanner like 300,000 rupiah, 400 to scan the film of the X-ray. But actually we need a high resolution using the DICOM format and so on. Then you need computed radiology, CR, or even digital radio, but it's very expensive, right? Then in 2014, they also started teleradiology, it's more centralized server, I think also from the private sector and so on. And in 2016, they see that there is a good implementation in Makassar, and they thought that it will be implemented in the government, in the Ministry of Health, so that they hired the system. But somehow, because again of the private sector, they have to pay annual rent. It's very expensive because it's not its area. They have to pay another money to pay. Then finally in 2017, they decided to build by themselves the temenin of telemedicine in Indonesia. Started from beginning is very simple, like web-based application and so on. Now becoming better and better. So this is now we use tele-ECG, USG, and teleradiology. Why also? Because the initiator of the program is from the, in Indonesia we call it Subdit Layanan Penunjang, or maybe it's like supporting services in Ministry of Health. So meaning that Layanan Penunjang is like for radiology, USG. Also, if you read all the textbook about telemedicine, the most mature telemedicine system is teleradiology, yeah, and so on, using the image exchange, something like that. This is the way how it works in telemedicine in Indonesia or temenin. Yeah, you have a computer there in a Ministry of Health. We travel a lot in rural area, and we brought the notebook, webcam, digital ECG, and so on to help them. We install them. We conduct the training and teach them how to use the temenin. Yeah, it's quite simple now. It also is free. We don't have to pay anymore. So year by year, the number is increasing, and the user. So then we can use it to radiology, ECG, USG. We can capture the ECG from the digital ECG machine, transfer it. If you are not familiar, just using USB and plug it into the notebook and transfer the image there, and they'll be sent to the district hospital, and then the medical specialist there will examine and give the expertise and send back and so on, something like that. This is simple, like centralized topology like that. Like in last Thursday, I also became a speaker in Amazon Web Service. At that time, we offer the cloud-based technology to help this, to simplify, because sometimes if there's a lot of demand, then maybe a server in the Ministry of Health in Pusdatin becoming overload, and the response getting slower and slower. I think you're familiar if you, if you work in a university and you're familiar with the system from Ministry of Higher Education and so on. When you want to submit your pulang report, whatever, everyone use it, and then get overload the system, then you get that you cannot use anymore because system is in Indonesia we call it hang, crash. Yeah, this because the design, me as an IT practitioner, is somehow it's too simple. Yeah, I will tell you later on about the reliability, availability, and so on. So this is the how many hospital are already involved in Temenin. There are 56 for the Rumah Sakit Pengampu, the giving the consultation, and the Ampu, the referral health services is 151. It's quite a big number. Sorry. The medical specialists for radiology is 437 from the jantung, cardiology is 186, obgyn 136, from the general physician is 364. I think the number is becoming bigger and bigger. Yeah. As you see, this is a target for the Minister of Health to increase all the users because especially in pandemic, I think this will be very, very useful because you can reduce the bottleneck. Because like in Indonesia, somehow people sometimes they don't follow the referral concept. They just go directly to the Sarjito or to the district hospital without visiting the puskesmas and so on because they want to have a better service. Blah blah. But again, everyone come to the hospital and get overload and so on. Meanwhile, the primary healthcare is empty. So that's why we need to follow the referral system then. And then telemedicine will help you because even you only visit the telemedicine in puskesmas in primary healthcare, you will get a service as better as you go to the district hospital because they will consult your problem with the technology using telemedicine to asking the medical specialist in district hospital. So they have a target in the government from 2020 until 2024. And number becomes 235. That's big number. I hope it goes well. Yeah. Okay. And also the use here, as you see, compared to the 2019 and 2020, because of the pandemic as well, the use is getting higher. So the number from January to July is also almost the same like the number from January to December 2019. 1,000 blah blah blah. Yeah, something like 200 or 300 something. Meaning that a lot of people needs consultation and without visiting physically to their health services, something like that. Or the medical doctor in primary healthcare asking a lot more consultation than before the pandemic. Yeah, okay. I will also show you a short video. I hope the sound should be okay about the telemedicine in Indonesia. This is just stage action in Papua in Rumah Sakit Bayangkari, just showing you how it works using the telemedicine. And I will also maybe skip some part if it's too long. Okay, I will try to play my video. Just checking. Can you hear the voice, the sound of the video? Is it okay?
We can hear it, the voice.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bu Anissa.
Yeah.
I'll continue the video. Yeah. This is telemedicine from Puskesmas Sota to the RSUD Bayangkara in the Bayangkara Hospital in the province of Papua. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Just stop here. Just if you notice, this is in Papua, but as you see for her name, where is she from? Maybe if you can. From the family name, can you guess? Where is he from? Everyone want to ask? Want to answer? She's from Sumatra Island. I mean that's. Yeah, we need a lot of people like this from Java, from Sumatra, from like big city to work in a rural area to help them. Okay, just come. So yeah, there is a patient came to the Puskesmas Sota, primary healthcare Sota, and he will be inspected by Dr. Indra Sari. Yeah, and then she will report using telemedicine to the medical doctor specialist in Bayangkara Hospital. This is the look. It's very easy and very browser and simple. The UI is quite easy to use, I believe. Fulfill the data of the patient. And once it will be sent to the medical specialist in RSUD Bayangkara, and the doctor will read it and give some advice. And if you are not so sure, you can also make a video conference with the medical. Yeah, you also send ECG image to the system. So there is one medical specialist, cardiologist in RSUD Bayangkara.
Ya, selamat pagi.
Perkenalkan dokter, saya Dr. Indra Sari, dokter umum yang bertugas di Puskesmas Sota.
Oh ya, perkenalkan juga saya Dr. Tommy, spesialis bedah saraf di RS Bayangkara, Jayapura. Apa yang bisa saya bantu, Dok?
Baik dok, saya ingin mengkonsultasikan pasien saya dan telekonsultasi ini sudah mendapatkan informasi dari pasien dokter.
Ya, silakan dok.
Iya dok, saya pasien laki-laki umur 23 tahun datang dengan riwayat kecelakaan lalu lintas 1 jam sebelum tiba di puskesmas. Pasien diserempet oleh truk, terserempet truk, kemudian jatuh terpental di aspal dengan bagian tubuh sebelah kanan yang membentur aspal duluan. Pasien saat ini dengan penurunan kesadaran dokter dan ada muntah 1 kali.
Ada keluhan yang lain? Tidak dok?
Ada dokter. Dari hasil pemeriksaan fisik, saya dapatkan ada ekskoriasi di temporal kanan dan kiri, dan juga ada laserasi di bagian occipital dengan ukuran 6 x 4 cm. Kemudian di bagian toras ada hematom dan ada ekskoriasi di abdomen di bagian kiri.
I think I will just keep it some of you. Then the doctor will ask for the medical specialist will ask for the general practitioner in the Puskesmas Sota to make some confirmation and so on, put some more data and so on. And finally, I think the decision is that patient should be transferred to the RSUD Bayangkara. This is very rare. Yeah, usually the problem can be solved by just using the teleconsultation. Here again, I think in the end the patient should be transferred to the Bayangkara. Oh sorry.
Untuk pasien ini saya rasa harus segera dirujuk ke Jayapura.
Baik dokter.
Nanti yang perlu dokter siapkan di sana itu yang pertama berikan oksigen.
Ya dok.
Oksigennya bisa nasal atau face mask. Kemudian head up.
Ya.
Head up 30 derajat.
Persiapan OPA, alat-alat untuk pernapasan untuk jalan napas itu. Kemudian tetap pertahankan polar neck. Terus pasiennya diberikan cairan, bisa berupa RL atau NaCl 0,9%. Kemudian pasien juga diberikan analgetik, bisa dipakai ketorolak atau paracetamol atau apa yang tersedia di puskesmas.
Okay, just stop it. So then finally, I think the patient will be transferred to the Bayangkara Hospital, meaning that it will give us a better decision. What should we do to the patient? Either we just conduct the treatment here in our local primary health care, or we should bring it, because like as you know, in Papua or Papua Barat, sometimes like from my experience, I have to travel like 5 hours through the forest, the jungle without any signal, using 4-wheel drive car. But if you don't have car, it takes like two days to walk. Imagine that. Sometimes they maybe I hope it will not happen. They can die in the forest and something. So again, telemedicine is very, very important. So here, just showing you some medical some device that they use in Termanin or telemedicine Indonesia. As you see, there is digital ECG. This is CR, computed radiology. This high resolution scanner to scan all the film from the from the X-ray machine and then transferred to be a digital file with a format DICOM and so on using this application here. This one is used in Puskesmas in South Sapor. This one is used in RSUD Raja 4. As you see, this is also used some network device to connect to the infrastructure. Some of them using 4G, some of them using VSAT and so on. Yeah. So various, yeah, and the quality is from like very, very poor and very, very excellent, something like this. Is also the challenge in Indonesia. Yeah. As you see here in South Sapor, is one of the district in West Papua. Actually, this is like 5 hours from Sorong using 4-wheel drive car through the forest without any signal, so just playing at all. Yeah. And then you see that there's only a small antenna for VSAT connected to the satellite, and it's so slow. Sometimes as weather is bad, it got rainy and so on, then there's lost connection. And also, because I'm IT guy, looking of this implementation is not proper at all. As you see, there is no fence or whatever and so on. So if there is like cow or I don't know, maybe children are playing around there and you just crash it and they will destroy it. Yeah, it's very easy. In Oransbari is a bit luckier because in Oransbari there is BTS just behind the Puskesmas or healthcare. I visited there in the first time in 2017. That time I checked the signal is very, very good. It was like 25 Mbps. Yeah. But I came back again in 2019, and when I check, it's only 4 Mbps. And also, we cannot use 4G, we only use 3G. Then I asked for Telkomsel, why did you reduce the service? And they said, no one use it. Maybe people who use the 4G is only people who work for the Puskesmas, there is a military area, something like that, and also people who work in the government, like Kelurahan, Kecamatan, and the rest is like monkey maybe. So the utilization is very, very low. That's why they decrease the services. This is the problem as well. I see it's only, yeah, but it's okay still, 4.0. In Tionghoa, that I told you before, we traveled 7 hours by car from Samarinda. Then we changed to the boat on the river, like a small boat, like only for 10 persons. We traveled 8 hours on the river. You can imagine. It's also very, very dangerous. A lot of the Riam, something like white water, is very, very dangerous. Some accident happened there and so on and so on. So we have to be very, very careful and also very skillful driver to only can use the boat. Yeah, we have to prepare. And then we arrived there in Tionghoa. This again is only, sometimes only 2G. You're lucky, one day only 3G. And electricity only happen like, I don't know, 6 hours a day and so on, so on, something. But you see, the building of the Puskesmas or primary health is very, very good. Big one. I think it's much better than my Puskesmas near here, Depok. Yeah. But again, it's only few people there. Yeah. Luckily, there is one medical doctor from, I think, from Medan and some nurse and so on, so on. But again, yeah, this is something like what we call uneven distribution. Yeah, for the medical practitioner there. So again, they also use the VSAT and also it's very low and unstable, something like that. Yeah. But in 2019, when I travel again through the forest to the crossover, I was so happy, right? Because every time I across the river, when I look in the side of the bridge, I saw a pipe, yeah, steel pipe. And nobody noticed and nobody cared, but I'm happy because this is pipe for fiber optic. You know, now they have Palapari. And the moment government already developed the national backbone infrastructure using fiber optic through the sea and so on to reach every island in Indonesia, big island, I mean. But the problem is here. We need to build more BTS because otherwise BTS is, you know, BTS, yeah. It's not music group from Korea, yeah, different. You know, yeah, BTS, yeah. I think near you will see the tower to put the telecom provider like Telkomsel, Indosat, Excelcom, and so on. Yeah, they put the antenna there, base transmission system, yeah, station. Sorry. So then we need more BTS. Otherwise, again, we call it cellular because it's like cell around here. All coverage here is not full yet. Yeah, still many places are blank spot. There is no signal at all. Like in Oransbari, I got 3G or 4G very good near the Puskesmas. Once I go away like 5 kilometers, then signal completely lost. It's not only 1 bar, 2 bar, it was completely lost. No connection at all. Because why? Because not more BTS, not enough BTS there. So this is the homework on government to build. Backbone already built by the fiber to be connected to each BTS, but by using radio signal is a bit more. But sometimes, I think a few years ago, Google offering Indonesian government using the balloon, yeah, Google balloon, they got like low orbit to transfer the internet connection and so on. This is difficulties for them, the challenge, yeah. So then I always tell to the people who develop the mobile health services, please consider about the area that they don't have very good connection. So they say maybe the system should be flexible to be used in 2G connection, because most of them are only 2G. Yeah? And yeah, I told you before, some of the district health office, they just use SMS, but not typing manually, but they use USSD. Yeah? You can search in Google. It's very simple programming by Java on the future phone, old phone, yeah. And then when you checking pulsa, yeah, you type pagar 363 bintang whatever something. Then there will be a small menu here. You can check your account, you can top up and so on. This is USSD. This kind of technology can be used also for health monitoring, surveillance. So we can program like maybe 5, 10 questions. So then the message will be transferred properly in a structured way. If we do it manually, typed in, sometimes people get tired, sleepy, and so on. Then they type wrongly. Just like me, because I'm already 51 years old. Sometimes I type in WhatsApp is misspelling and so on. Yeah, but our daughter, we got the daughter, a university student, they type very quick and there's no mistake at all. But for me, I have to repeat it again because otherwise it's just like old generation. Yeah, GTS or bridge is very important. As you see, also speed, not only BTS, speed also must be increased. This is from OpenSignal, July 2020. It's like a few months ago. In a big city, it's okay. Like Telkomsel, like you can get like 13 from download, 5 from upload. Some smartphone is only 4 or 1. But once you go to the rural area, it's very, very slow. Yeah, I think it's like 0.2 Mbps, 0. And something like that. So this is a challenge for us. Yeah. Security, about the authentication. How we can authenticate whether the user of the telemedicine is a real person, is a real patient and real doctor. So meaning that we have to conduct some steps, like using the mobile banking. Why you use mobile banking so frequently? Because you trust it. Not happen at the moment to the health services, but in the mobile banking, yes, you trust them. You think that this is safe, then use a lot of. I think it's not only mobile banking, but you also use for OVO, or GoPay, and so on, something like that, because they have very good authentication system to authenticate who you are by using token, OTP, one-time password, fingerprint, retina, face, whatever. This is a lot of technology, but somehow in medical area and health area, still it's not quickly, not hugely implemented there. So we have to push to use this kind of authentication to make sure that you are dealing with the real doctor, or maybe the doctor, you are dealing with the real patient. Otherwise, I can be doctor because every day I have a discussion about medical things, with my wife, with my daughter, with my parents, and so on. So then I can be a fake doctor on the internet. So then just make a chatting and Dr. Surayo there and so on. So then I can just type in on this. I got money. So, you know what I mean. Yeah, this is also to make sure who you are. Authentication is also very, very important in health services, especially telemedicine, because we don't see each other physically. The next also, how we can protect the user safely from the beginning. Here again, I try to show you one of the private provider services here. You can send OTP there. You can register there, and they will. This is also the problem in Indonesia. People in Indonesia, they don't like to read the term of reference. Yeah, syarat dan ketentuan. Usually you just yes, next, yes, next, I agree, finish. Is it correct? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think most of you don't care about the about this thing. Yeah, but if you read it carefully, they want your permission to access your data. They want permission to access your contact in your phone. They asking your permission to access your picture, any file in the phone, and many others. So please be careful about this. Yeah. And of course, in telemedicine services or in the health, we also think about the informed consent. Again, because like in our previous video in Puskesmas Sota, the doctor, the general doctor, saying that she already obtained the informed consent from the patient. Patient already agreed that all the information will be used to transfer electronically to be consulted to the medical specialist. But sometimes many providers, they don't care it. Or even you are as a patient, you don't care as well. So just starting the consultation without asking your permission. So even they ask you a lot of privacy information sometimes. So then again, how we can control, we can monitor each telemedicine provider follow this guidance. Yeah, sometimes. How make consent digitally made. I was asked by the doctor in Puskesmas, asking, how can we make a digital informed consent? I'm not sure, but maybe if you can send something like a picture, maybe you have a form, you can send file, Microsoft Doc or whatever, or maybe a form, something like that, and the patient fill it online, or maybe they can print it, write down on that, signature, or take picture and send back. At least you have digitalized informed consent, something like that. But in some sophisticated one, you have a digital one, you can digitally signature and something like that. Next, also about the payment. Again, remember, everything is about how we can pay the services like that. This is another example from one provider in telemedicine. You see, if you check that, there's many options. Like it's very cheap, like 10,000, 50,000, and so on, to consult with some medical specialists and so on. Then the good thing is they already connected to the payment provider like GoPay, OVO, and so on. But again, the question is, how can we be sure that the protection of online payment is good? Something like that. So we need to ask, we need to audit that, because there is no assessment. Yes, actually, at the moment, like moderator said to you, now I'm being involved in UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and we're conducting assessment of the telemedicine uses of services during the pandemic. So we are making a map, how the use of telemedicine right now and so on, because there is no study conducted yet to capture everything, about the telemedicine in global. This also about how can we sure that the data exchange in the internet is secure? Of course, like Temenin, we use, if you see this data, the Gembok in Indonesia, meaning that the connection is secured by SSL, secure socket layer, meaning that the communication from your notebook to the server of Temenin or to other telemedicine server, it will encrypt it, and will be, it's not be easy for someone who trying to do the data theft or eavesdropping. Because why? Because already encrypted, something that it cannot be readable easily, something. I think the technology is already there, but make sure that your telemedicine services are utilizing this feature to encrypt the connection. The other one is like we did the project here in UGM 2016 and 17, making the mobile health application with RSA, Fakultas Kedokteran RSA, DSD, Puskom in UGM, and many Puskesmas there. We distributed 600 mobile phone to users in 21 primary healthcare in province of Yogyakarta, Sleman, Kulon Progo, Bantul and so on. Then first we made the physical laboratory check, and they got blood tests and so on. So they got the lab result there, and the result will be saved in the Rumah Sakit academic server, and they will transfer to the SDE, transfer again to the Nusa Health server. And so this is, we have to make sure when we synchronize, when we exchange the information from, let's say, external entities, we already did the anonymization. We remove all the privacy, private data. So then it's like, we want to know about the population. That's how many people are in DM, how many people are in having the issue of, let's say, I don't know, heart attack or whatever, something like that. In high blood pressure and so on. So we will not send any personal data on the system. So we have we remove it. We do it anonymously, something like that. So this is make sure also how patient health data is exchanged in a smartphone-based channel. Back to the developed country that I ever experienced there when we were in Netherlands. There is a backbone system from the country called AORTA. This is national backbone. It's very interesting. It was developed by like independent institution in Netherlands, not from the Ministry of Health. A lot of experts there, and they developed the system. Like, I think it took like 5 to 7 years. It's quite long. And there is a very important information here that no clinical data at the backbone, only an index or where clinical information is set. So when it's needed, then there will be sent resume medicine of that. Clinical data stays at the source. Or even like using this, not only from medical doctor like me as a patient. Let's say I bought the medical insurance there. This is called Anduzog. I don't know. Maybe moderator also have another name. This is European, and in the country, you are in Swiss, right? Is it? I don't know. Okay. Then
Austria.
Austria. I think something like that. Zog, whatever. It's like Germanese. Germanese.
It's like German.
I use Anduzog in Netherlands. That's my name. And also this is OZ code and so on. So when every time I went to the primary healthcare and so on, they will borrow my card. It's always chip inside that. They will read it. And the doctor as well, also they also put it here. So data, when we be transferred to the backbone, it will be encrypted, encapsulated with the digital signature, not only from the doctor, also from the patient. So it's very secure. So I think, I don't know, maybe in Australia, and US is somehow it's not as good as Europe or in Asia somehow. Maybe like Thailand, Japan is much better. US is a bit terrible. I don't know. But you can check it. That this is very good system to make sure. Again, this health data is very, very sensitive. Then we have to protect it properly with the system. This is one as well. It's very important in Indonesia. A lot of, I'm sorry to say that, I was involved in a e-government project like in early 2000 and so on, helping many kabupaten kota, and somehow they only care about buying the server, good website and so on, spending miliar rupiah to something, but it doesn't work properly. When a lot of requests access their server, and it will collapse. Why? Because they don't care about the availability. They don't care about the reliability. Actually, if you are learning from the private company, they will make a lot of like what we call redundant or replicated server, and they have what we call a load balancer. So they will automatically forward on the request to another server. So there's no, like when you use mobile banking, it's only 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, 1 billion people accessing the same time. It's okay, still okay. But sorry to say, if government developed by the government, the system, usually when there are all requests, they will be collapsed. I don't know, mungkin Mbak Anissa maybe have the same experience when you submitting something to the server in Dikti and so on. It's happening. And this, I don't know, this knowledge, this is already there in like 20 or 30 years ago. I'm not sure why they do that. But again, in health services is very important. Like now, because everything is in cloud, you have to rely on very reliable and high availability system. Otherwise, yeah, you got a problem because you don't have any physical document anymore. Everything is in the system in the cloud somewhere. Okay, yeah. And here again, issue about the what happening. People asking what happened if the server is outside Indonesia? Yes, that's true. Mostly like from private company, mostly are in outside Indonesia. Why? Yeah, because Indonesia doesn't have a good server collocation something. But government already has regulation PP 71 ya untuk peraturan sistem transaksi elektronik, and they gave I don't know something like relaxation until October 2020. So the government require every private company who want to build whatever like cloud services in Indonesia, they should have a local server in Indonesia physically until October 2020. After that, if not, then the service will be banned, something like that. But now, like I was in a seminar at Amazon, and they are now struggling to building the physical location in Indonesia to make a good server farm and many other things. But Indonesia again is a lot of challenging because we have so many also natural disaster, yeah, earthquake, tsunami, flooding, and so on. Then sometimes they think also the demo riot. So they should think more about developing the data center in Indonesia. They should choose a very, very safe location. Otherwise, yeah, they feel unsure, they feel insecure, yeah, because so many uncertainty in Indonesia. Now, again, not only about technical thing, also about the ethical issue. Again, we use ICT, we use IT to make a communication, to make a consultation, even is sensitive data about our disease and so on. Not only in telemedicine, let's talk about education as well. I know recently the student, I've been teaching in UKM since 2002, yeah, for MM Simba. And that time, they followed the regulation when they want to see the percent bimbingan and so on. Yes, quite it was proper. But nowadays, you just maybe can send email or maybe asking your thesis revision using WhatsApp. Pak, udah selesai belum? Something so meaning that is it finished, sir, or something. It's very quick without any like introduction and so. This is ethical issue, yeah. Using the ICT to conduct the education is also not easy. Especially again, if we are talking about healthcare services, it's very, very because a lot of things happen there, yeah. Because you are asking about permission, their sensitive data to be transferred to another system outside there because we are doing a consultation. You are asking permission that data will be saved or will be processed in a system in a machine, something like that. Maybe using big data analytics to analyze something. So then. You remember in telemedicine or in health informatics, there are many stakeholders, not only patient, doctor, the telemedicine technician, paramedic, administrator, the provider itself, pharma industry, insurance, policymaker, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Communication and Information, and many other things. But also, so then we should think about that, consider about it. Yeah, like some issue about ethical in telemedicine for patient. Make sure that their privacy, confidentiality, they are secured properly, yeah, and also they have the right to require treatment expertise if they don't like this. One of the medical specialists who are being consulted by this general doctor, maybe they can ask, no, I'm not. Let's say I'm not comfortable with this medical because I heard blah blah. So could you please change the medical specialist to another? Some they have the right to ask him because. They want a better service. They pay you for the treatment sometimes. And of course, they inform also. For the doctor, they also, of course, they're responsible for the treatment, the data use. I think some of you already asked in the previous section, previous lecture, yeah, about how the data will be used in the system because we never know. Yeah, like nowadays, yeah, sometimes you will be called by credit card agency, credit card company, or from people who are offering money, online lending money, yeah, peer-to-peer and so on. How did they get my number or your number? Somehow they bought it from one company who already acquired your data before. Yeah, like you are a member of Zalora, you are a member of Toko X, you are a member of Peng Ye, and something. So privacy confidentiality also should be maintained properly. Legal condition adaptation also for the service provider, about the cross-border culture in UNDP, in the project in UNDP that I'm doing now. We also think about the gender issues, about the religion in telemedicine. Sometimes you prefer with the doctor with same gender with you, same religion with you. Yeah, it happened in Indonesia. You should care about this. Yeah, sometimes by looking the name there, maybe it's different religion. This is also happened in Indonesia. So again, this is a sensitive issue as well. Responsibility of the right transmission, conferencing data, about how they can handle the expertise of the doctor, of the member. Yeah, they have, let's say, 1,000 doctor. Do they have the SEP and STR registered correct SEP or STR or not, or just fake SEP and so on, something like that. Yeah. So then, talking about the regulation, we already 1 hour 15 minutes. I think another 15 minutes. Is everybody okay? Feel sleepy or get bored? Still okay? Yeah, I cannot see the chat, but I hope everyone is still listening my presentation. Yeah, I hope my presentation is not boring.
Okay.
Yeah? Good. Okay, continue then for the digital health. Is it okay? Yeah. Because it's a hard time, yeah. Because it's only 2 o'clock. Yes, feel sleepy because you are you're full of stomach full and.
Yeah.
Okay. Then. Yeah. Back to the regulation itself. We already have the regulation from the facility-based telemedicine, healthcare. Health hospital to hospital using the Permenkes Peraturan Menteri Kesehatan Nomor 20/2019. Yeah. But at the time we didn't have for the client to provider. Yeah. So what happened there after the pandemic, because everyone had to use the telemedicine from medical to the patient, then government launched what we call circular letter, yeah, Surat Edaran, SA Minister of Health number 303 2020. Sorry, yeah. But again, if you are asking from the people who are in law area, like your friend will be studying, Surat Edaran is very weak. Yeah, there are a lot of stages to be there until the Peraturan Menteri and so on. But it's okay, it's because it's a relaxation of regulation. Also, the Perconsil, Medical Council also launched the letter of this number 74/2000, allowing medical doctor conducting telemedicine. And also not only from the Ministry of Health, also from BPOM, yeah, from the Food and Drug Agency, they also e-pharmacy, per BPOM number 8/2020, and ongoing both paramedical and electronic system operators and both regulatory. And so, yeah, government is working hard to support. And also recently, I was invited many times with the UK government. I don't know why they want to help Indonesian government to make a regulation from the telemedicine. Yeah, they will help Indonesian government to make a framework regulation for the telemedicine, especially for client provider to client. This is also the regulation requirement from as a medical doctor to give your service to the patient. There are many, and I will not discuss that in detail. Also, if using the Temenin or using Sehatpedia, there are some limitation when you use that. Doctor's authority in the telemedicine service, such as for analysis, physical examination, using some tools like camera or maybe microphone, asking something, giving advice, diagnosis, management and drug administration, writing prescription, and providing referral, just like we did in the video. Yeah. And also government already prepared for the digital ecosystem of health services. This electronic health record. This is talking about health information system, e-pharmacy, yeah? Mobile health is very important because everyone here in Indonesia using mobile phone, yeah. Even like our previous speaker told us that even in India, maybe they don't have a proper home, but they have sophisticated smartphone, maybe just because of the lifestyle and so on, and telemedicine, of course, yeah, for teletraining, consultation, and so on. So we use also telemedicine not only for serving the patient, but also using for the education purpose, yeah, from let's say Sarjito to Rumah Sakit Umum in Wates, yeah. They make a seminar on so on based on the case study happen in telemedicine, and they will deliver it using the telemedicine service. So yeah, based on the data in January 2020 from VR Social and Unsur, as you see, we have 272 million of people, but interestingly, we have 338 million mobile phone connection. So it doesn't mean that each person in Indonesia has mobile phone. It means that some people, many people in Indonesia has many mobile phone. Because if you go to the rural area, they don't have at all mobile phones. Internet user is also big, 174. This is opportunity if you want to conduct any kind of health services using ICT. And active medical, social media is also increasing. One of the company who gained a lot of the, let's say, benefit during the pandemic is telecommunication company, the internet company, because everyone is using. Unluckily, it's not for hospitality, like hotel, restaurant, and so on. So this is the data from Indonesia in January 2020. Doesn't change a lot, I believe. And also, what they do, yeah, they use this, yeah, the device that they have. It's interesting. Most of them are using mobile phone, and smartphone is 94%. Not non-smartphone that I told you that we can use USSD or simple SMS technology to conduct like monitoring, surveillance, communication, yeah, using the feature phone. Usually when I visit to the rural area, I always brought two phones, yeah. One is smartphone, one is the feature phone. Why? Because here is battery drains very quick, yeah, especially if there is no signal. So then I bring my Samsung, very old one, yeah, the simple one, but the battery can last like 5 days or 4 days, yeah, without any charging and so on. So because, yeah, it's very simple technology, sometimes much better, yeah. Laptop, 60%, and many other things, even game, yeah, a lot of people in Indonesia like to do gaming, smartwatch, wristband, and so on, yes. Also cheaper, like 300,000 if you buy Xiaomi, Huawei, and so on, yeah. And what they do on the connection, 20%, only 20% for health and fitness application, but this one is in January 2020. But nowadays, I think because of the pandemic, I think this number is much bigger, like from Atensi, from another private provider for the telemedicine service, they claim that the use is like 600, yeah, increase, yeah. That's why maybe the number is quite different. Yeah. For banking, you are familiar with that. Betting, friendship is also important, very interesting. Map, music, and so on. So this is what Indonesian people do, yeah, every day. Then opportunities using the telemedicine, basically, if we just, let's say, make big scale of the telemedicine implementation, we can categorize in 3 different categories. One is like from exchange the data about the patients. The second one is helping about the medical image archiving exchange, and the next one is supporting telecommunication using ICT, or something like that. So here, back to the Ministry of Health, they have 2, hospital and community-based. The hospital is basis Temenin, community-based is Sehatpedia. This look of the Temenin, you can fill in all the patient data and so on. Then we can make a medical resume exchange. So as you see here, I'm sorry, but maybe it's not very good picture. It's too small. But there is telemedicine there. There is also hospital information system. We have also SysRuta for the referral. We have SysRuta for the back referral, something like that. So then each system will exchange each other. It depends. If using telemedicine, meaning that the patient will get a treatment locally in their health services, but somehow they need more medical treatment specialists from medical specialists in district hospital. Then use SysRuta rujukan to send the patient physically there, and after the treatment good back, then data will be transmitted by using Siruri. So this all the medical resume exchange will happen in this system somewhere. And archiving, yeah, as you see, like I told before, that one of the most mature telemedicine is teleradiology is about handling the medical image, serving them, especially if you use like cloud-based technology is much easier. You can send ECG because it's very small one. But if you need this one, this is also only GPEG. But if you need DICOM, like the size of 50 megabyte and so on, then you need a better connection, better system to handle that, something like that. Okay. Luckily, I think the Ministry of Health, they already have a very good teleradiology server, which is purchased in 2014. Yeah. But at the moment, they don't have very good infrastructure to support it. And yes, for the consultation, for chatting and so on, yeah, you can use also WhatsApp, SMS, email, and so on. You can also use in the menu here. You can so tanya doctor doing the video conference, and I think it's typical, yeah, using in many telemedicine services. Another movie I will show you. That is the project that we did in 2019. This is like we are trying to implement a telemedicine service to support the maternal health in Kulon Progo. So this is collaboration among the Faculty of Medicine, the Sarjito Hospital, government in Kulon Progo, like the RSUD Watas, Niagang Serang, Puskesmas Amigalo, and Temon. Yeah, let's see the video.
Kita ketahui bersama, Indonesia adalah negara kepulauan. Kita ada 17.000 lebih pulau di Indonesia, yang kita sadari juga akses dan batas layanan juga masih terbatas.
Ya, Rumah Sakit Umum Pusat Dr. Sarjito sebagai rumah sakit milik pemerintah, rumah sakit vertikal, memiliki misi untuk turut mengambil bagian, terpanggil untuk bagaimana mempercepat belum meratanya kapasitas di rumah sakit yang ada di seluruh wilayah Indonesia.
Sehingga dengan ada telemedicine, kita harapkan akses dan pelayanan kesehatan itu bisa lebih baik dirasakan oleh seluruh masyarakat Indonesia.
Ya, untuk tahap pertama kita ingin membatasi diri dulu, fokus kepada penuntasan permasalahan kematian ibu dan bayi yang masih tinggi, persisten, dan itu dengan upaya-upaya menggunakan telemedicine itu, yang antara menggunakan webinar atau juga software dari Temenin yang sudah kita kembangkan oleh Kemenkes, itu bisa dipakai untuk keperluan-keperluan tersebut.
Kalau dengan kondisi EKG yang kurang ideal ini, kesannya yang bisa ditangkap hanya sinus takikardi.
Kami UGM mengembangkan Academic Health System, yaitu suatu integrasi fungsional antara institusi pendidikan, dalam hal ini adalah UGM, dengan rumah sakit pendidikan. Ada Rumah Sakit Umum Pusat Dr. Sarjito, kemudian Rumah Sakit Umum Dr. Suradi Tirtonegoro, dan beberapa rumah sakit pendidikan kami, dan juga dengan pemerintah daerah, dalam hal ini adalah pemerintah Provinsi DIY dan Jawa Tengah, dengan cara mengintegrasikan pendidikan, penelitian, kemudian pengabdian masyarakat dan pelayanan kesehatan, yang tujuannya adalah untuk meningkatkan derajat kesehatan di wilayah kami.
Okay, that's an example of this ongoing project, yeah, still running there to support the maternal health. There are many activities, yeah. I think you can also, if you want to make a collaboration. You can ask for the Ministry of Health to use Terminal for, I don't know, maybe dermatology, ophthalmology, from any kind of mental health. I think it's very important. Recently, I also read a lot of paper about the mental health during the pandemic, and they use the telemedicine as well. Yeah. Are you healthy in your mental? Sometimes you feel bored. You get so bored. I don't know. You want to do something, but you cannot do that. This is happening in during the pandemic, during the quarantine. People are inside the house and cannot do anything. There's mental problem happening. This also is very important. It's very a lot of research about the mental health. Something like this is happening in Sehatpedia. You can healthcare article, policy, and so on. You can use also for the COVID. Recently, they also published the COVID article, so to educate the Indonesian citizen and so on. Yeah, and blah blah blah. Something like that. This is also some like chatbot to doing COVID and many other things. And good thing as well, and from the private telemedicine provider in like in Alliance of the Telemedicine Indonesia, Atensi, they make a cooperation with the Ministry of Health. They agreed to help the Ministry of Health to educate the citizen, yeah, about the COVID-19 pandemic here, especially for the promotional and preventive field, helping them to try to make this no hoax or no fake or health information, and also of course to minimize unnecessary visit. Yeah, that's why. Here in telemedicine is very, very important for us now. This is just example of chatbot. You're like I didn't display the name of the provider. If you log in there, you can chat with the robot there, asking about the COVID and so on. Where do you live? What happened there? And if you want to know about more about virus corona, about the symptom and so on, then you can use chatbot. Okay. This is TechOn that I already mentioned before. Is provided by RSUP Sasito to solve the existing question using teleconsultation, yeah, like chatting, video call, and so on. And good thing is because of the existing question, we already got the electronic medical record, and also the doctor are also proof, yeah, so to be a competent doctor to serve you something like that, because it's government hospital, right? So then use of telemedicine, what can we do? A lot, yeah, as a student or maybe a practitioner or you're a researcher or as a lecturer. You can use for population health management using cloud and big data analytics, like you discussed before in the previous lecture, yeah, to track disease, map them geographically, and identify key areas is also very, very important. I saw in some paper they already use this to tracking the OTG, PDP, and so on, yeah, using GPS and many other things. I think government of Jakarta tried to, I think 3 months ago, people who wanted to go to Malioboro, they have to register the mobile phone. But now they just postpone it. So then we can track if you got this is there. If you go somewhere, then you can be easily tracking because all data is already inputted in government of Jakarta. So patient connectivity, of course, yeah, you can use the feature of telemedicine to make communication, chatting, video call, and so on. Data distribution service was sure, yes. Again, telemedicine is not only serving, but also for the education, for helping the better health services and so on. So enabling the exchange of the health data using standardized and interoperable things. And also for diagnostic support, you can use like software service and so on to help them, yeah, doing the AI and so on to conduct that. This is a bit advanced for Indonesia, but I don't know, you can start it. So then the future directive, we need a standardized format, especially like a concern. I saw that so many providers, they didn't follow the procedure to require the informed consent of the patient. I think it's very important because patient has to agree that the data will be used for something, in electronically. Courses, yeah, I think maybe a lot of management in the hospital, medical doctor, they need to know what is telemedicine, what should we do, and blah blah blah, so something like that. Yeah, this seminar is doing this number 2, and doing the knowledge dissemination by using the seminar. Remember, respect for the privacy, confidentiality, and so on. So ethics in telemedicine is very, very important. They have to follow it. I think Indonesia doesn't have the guidance yet from the ethics there. Qualification skill, yeah, like number 2, you got to to go to training, got certification, accreditation from the telemedicine provider. We don't have yet on the agency here to accredit. For the hospital, yes, but the telemedicine provider, not yet. Yeah, building confidence. Yeah, make sure that they trust you. Like mobile bank, like in banking services, it's no problem at all. Everyone can trust it, can use it, even just use mobile phone. Yeah. Like 20 or 30 years ago, people were afraid to go to the ATM. Why? Because there is no people, human there. This only machine. How can I trust it? I can send my money or get the money and so on. From old people, they prefer to go to the cashier, yeah, to see the people. They are afraid. But nowadays, they're just sleeping, watching my lecture. You can just send by GoFood, yeah, GoPay and so on, or maybe Lazada, because my lecture is boring. Then I go to Lazada, to Tokopedia, buy something and so on. You trust it, but not for the health yet. Yeah, so why we don't help them to support the health system using ICT so that we can trust like what we do for banking, for commerce, and so on. Yeah, remuneration is very important. Like now, I think there are pilot projects like 5 or 6 different areas from Ministry of Health and BPJS because yeah, telemedicine should be paid. Yeah, every time they give consultation, even with the mobile phone, it should be paid. And the regulation from the Permenkes 20 is very cheap, like 15,000. It's consultation, but now they have to formulate to be covered by BPJS, by JKN, and so on. Cross-border issue, or maybe if you're talking about different geographical, demographic issue, yeah, like different culture, social issue, gender, and also on. Talking about like HIV patient, how data should be covered in the telemedicine and so on. Yeah. Standard interoperability, we already discussed in the morning. Instrument, yeah, there's also good standardization, licensing, law, portal, like place like customer service to okay, then I think that's all. My lecture is quite long, and I'm not sure whether you are interested or not, but I hope you get something there. This is my contact. If you use QR code, just click it, or maybe just type on Google Suraya Sumarsono and you got it. Then time is back to the Ibu Moderator. I just stop my sharing here. Okay, good.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Suraya. This very interesting talk. I mean, like there is a new insight about the challenge and what and the step from our country to build to move from to telemedicine. Now I think we have several questions here, two in the chat and one I think Mas Wahyu raising hands when you give the lecture.
Sure.
Maybe Mr. Wahyu, would you please unmute yourself and ask the question?
Literacy is very, very low. So we are not allowed to use the like kind of medical to patient telemedicine. Of course, also the infrastructure there is not that good enough. And when people there, they will not have smartphone or 4G and something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you send the team, yeah, to conduct driving to visit the patient house and so on using tablet and mobile phone, and they will conduct it. So you need some helper for that. Yeah.
Okay. So we cannot apply it like from patient to the doctor directly, right? Yeah. It can be misinterpretations.
Sure.
So maybe this will be last questions for our session. So is the telemedicine only the service, only data services, or it can be combined with the financial system? I mean, like the telemedicine, yeah, the definition of the telemedicine is only the data service, or?
No, actually, yes, this is also the big homework for the government at the moment, because again, we are serving patient and we need to be paid, right? If you respect for the profession of the medical concern, they should be paid because they gave some expertise, something like that. Is it that question? I think, yeah. Then in order to deliver the telemedicine services, we have to collaborate with the financial system to conduct the payment. Just look at the private telemedicine services like Halodoc, and they are a very good one, and they already integrated with GoPay and many other things. But if we're talking about the telemedicine and Puskesmas and so on, we only rely on the BPJS system and so on. So it's like reimbursement. And then also is not is still in a pilot project. But that is true. Even in US and many other things, the issue always about the financial, about how do we finance the health services using the ICT. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's still a question for every country, even for the developed country, right? Yeah.
Yes, it's true.
Okay, maybe that's all. Or there's anyone who wants to ask again?
Yeah, and you just send me email or just
okay.
QR,
okay.
Capture my QR code and you will connect with me LinkedIn. I suggest everyone here to have a LinkedIn account, LinkedIn, yeah, not only Facebook, Instagram, but you are professional, so you should have something like LinkedIn account. It's
it
for
is
your future.
Yeah, it is very interesting because, like, for me, for my personal opinions, because I'm doing research in this area too, for my PhD, so it's very interesting.
Sure. Okay, next time we can make a good discussion about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can make it a good discussion. Okay, so maybe I would because we will have to the end of our last session today, and I would like to point out one thing that now in Indonesia we are starting slowly to build our telemedicine services to give the to solve the problems about the equal medication for every citizen in Indonesia, because we have geographical boundaries, medication, like insufficient health workers, and unevenly distributed of the hospital. So yeah, that's good news for our country. At least we are starting, and I think slowly but sure we will have a good infrastructure and in telemedicine. Yeah. Okay, once again, thank you very much for Mr. Surahyo to enlighten us about the telemedicine in Indonesia. And then thank you very much for the participation too, to join with the 2 sessions today. And I think we will continue our lecture, international guest lecture tomorrow for the last sessions with Pak Andi. And I think I will give the event back to the presenter. And thank you very much. Have a nice day. Have a nice weekend and keep healthy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for our moderator that was guided our session today, Mrs. Anissa Maulida Ningtyas Eskom MNG. And also thank you very much for our second speaker, Mr. Surahyo Sumarsono BNG MNG SC as telemedicine consultant. Thank you for all the honorable speaker for sharing your insight and thoughtfulness today. We're really sorry for the unanswered question because we still have a lot of here, but unfortunately the time is up and we have to end this lecture. Before that, I would like to announce for all the participants that course material can be accessed in bit.ly/international guest lecture 1. And the certificate will be sent several days after this international guest lecture. We hope you get some valuable knowledge, and we do hope that you always stay healthy. Thanks for your participation and hope to see you again on the next international lecture, actually tomorrow. And I would like to say see you soon and stay healthy and stay happy. See you.
Picture?
Okay, probably perhaps we can take another
pictures
documentation session. For all participants, please turn on your camera. Okay, we take a picture. I will count. 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute. Okay, once more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, once again, the last. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. We are done.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Yeah, see you. Bye.
Bye.
you're a sky, 'cause you're a sky full of stars. I'm gonna give you my heart, 'cause you're a sky, 'cause you're a sky full of stars. 'Cause you light up the path.